Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. This video is about Prusa Slicer for Cura users, specifically for thin wall 3D printing. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and we do subscriber giveaways. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how in Prusa Slicer you can bring in parts, manipulate parts, set them up for printing in whatever material you want, and outputting the information to your printer, as well as some other features from the perspective of a Cura user. Let's get started. So Ultimaker Cura is a very popular program, and it's popular because it is so easy to use. First thing anybody needs to do is add a printer, and it's relatively easy to do. There are lots of printers supported by Cura. Now in Prusa Slicer, you can add a printer by going to the configuration wizard, and it will step you through how to add printers from other vendors that are out there. There's not nearly as many as in Cura, but chances are there is a Prusa Slicer configuration for your printer, whether it's on here or if you go out on the internet and find a printer profile from somebody else. Then it's just a matter of selecting your printer. From there, we are going to show the artillery sidewinder printer. So now that the printer is all set up in Cura, you would go in and open a file and find the file and click on it and open it, and it would appear on your print test bed in Cura, and you could click on it and you could do a whole bunch of part manipulations if you'd like to, and or just go to slice. In Prusa Slicer, to import a part, you need to go to import and import, and you can select on the part and open it, and it should appear just as it does in Cura. And you click on it, and then you have the ability to manipulate the part and do whatever you want. There is the difference in Prusa Slicer in that this left-hand corner is your editor, and then the next one over to it is the preview of the sliced part. You can also click on your tab across the top and get your print settings. And if you wanted to get more print settings in Cura, you could click Basic, Advanced, Expert, All, or Custom Selection, which allows you to show just the ones that you want. Just as in Cura, Prusa has different levels of manipulation to the settings. There's a simple, advanced, and expert, and it's just a difference of how many settings are viewable in the different pull-down tabs. I usually go to expert because I want to see what all of the settings are. And then you can also have different custom profiles set up for that specific printer. Unfortunately, when you put in a different printer and switch printers, not all of the print profiles change over, and it's based on, I'm not exactly sure why Cura has it set up that way. The print settings are very much your slicer settings. This is what sets up all of the rules that it is using to slice the part. The filament tab is for all of the filament specific things, such as the temperature of printing. And then your printer selection, your printer preferences are in a separate tab. So it's print settings or slicer settings, filament settings, and then printer selection. And then the plotter tab is what shows you all your parts. So we're back in Cura, and you would select the print profile that you want and click on it and then hit slice, and it would go through and slice the part, and you would hit the preview in order to see what would happen in the part. And use these sliders to be able to see what is happening as it's being printed. In Prusa Slicer, you can pick your slicing settings or the print settings. You can pick your filament settings, and then you can pick your printer, and then you can hit slice, and then you can look at the different layers and see what the print nozzle path is going to be doing for each and every layer. So in the preview in Cura, there is these extra color indications, and you can see where the starts and stops are and the travel moves. There isn't anything quite like this in Prusa. However, in Prusa you can still pretty much zoom in and you can see the difference of comparing the different types here with what is happening in the print preview. So if you're happy with how it's sliced and you're ready to print, you can save it to disk and offload it to your printer and start that process. So then you can save the G-code file and send it to your printer and print the part. Alright, so you want to change the settings, and these are the comparison Cura settings to Prusa settings for thin wall printing. One of the main printing settings for thin wall stuff is the line width. In Cura, it's under quality. In Prusa, it is in your print settings, and it is found in, where is it? Specific extrusion width is under the advanced section under print settings. You got your default extrusion width. I have these all set to the same size. Infill overlaps set to 50%. Next is in the walls. So your line count, I have it set to 1 on my Cura profile. In Prusa, it is under the layers and perimeters, and it's the vertical shells, and I have mine set to 2. and have it set to 1. I haven't found that there's a major difference. Next up, major one is the speed and the print speed. This section in Prusa Slicer is under the print settings, and it's under speeds. Very similar to how Cura has it set up, and the travel speed set in this section as well. So the next set of parameters are specific to materials, such as the printing temperature, and the build plate temperature, and then the wall flow, as it's called in Cura, or the amount of material that is pushed through the extruder, which can be manipulated to reduce the flow, such as for the foaming materials. Now in Prusa Slicer, these would be found in the filament settings. The filament sets the temperature and the bed temperature for the first layer or for the layers after that. And then the extrusion multiplier is equivalent to the wall flow number in Cura. Then the next section is travels, which in Cura is retractions and all the details that are with retractions, including the combing mode. That is found in the filament override section, has retraction. And you can turn on retractions and set the amount, the length of retraction. There's also a extra length at restart. This is your prime, which is equivalent to your retraction extra prime amount. And then minimum travel. And those values are minimum travel after retraction. These are those two parameters in Prusa Slicer. And then there's the combing mode that's in the travels. In Prusa Slicer, combing mode is accomplished it's in the layers and perimeters, and it is in avoid crossing perimeters, and you want to check it as to be on. And there's some other parameters. I just have it set to 0. The cooling in Cura, that section, is also under filament settings, under the cooling tab, and you can set it to turning the fan on and the minimum and maximum speeds that you want it to run at. So of all these settings, the one setting that seems to be out of place is that the speeds, the print speeds, are in the slicing settings, and I kind of wish they were in the filament settings so that the print speeds could go with the different types of materials rather than how it is sliced. So in the meantime, what I've been doing is I have a user preset for a specific type of material that all I really change in that might be the print speed and or the travel speed. And then all of the other filament settings are under the filament settings tab with all of the temperature, the nozzle temperature, the bed temperature, the extrusion multiplier, the travels and primes, and anything else that needs to be added, changed for a specific type of material. In Cura, the profiles are pretty much, you have to hand import the information. You can create from a preset, or it is possible to import things, but I have not had very good luck with. In Prusa Slicer, you can do the same thing and go through and set up the different settings in a particular profile and then save it to a new spot. Or it is also possible to go in and import a configuration. And this will show up under your print settings as a new user preset, and under filaments as a new user preset. So then all you have to do is go into the printer and select your printer and pick the filament configuration you want and the print configuration you want, and then ready to print the part. In Cura 4.11, did a really good job of printing the skins very nicely. So it didn't, in order to do so, you had to print one part at a time. So I got very used to only printing one part at a time rather than doing multi-part prints here. Now, the outer before inner walls skins, where it prints the entire perimeter before it prints any of the internal structure. There is a print setting for this in the layers and perimeters. Under print settings, under advanced, there's external perimeters first, which I have checked, but does not seem to function that way. If you know of a way to get it to print the external perimeters first, please comment below and let us know. So in Cura, it is possible to bring in all the parts for a project, and it will populate them, and it should arrange them such that they will print. However, it arranges it how it wants to set them up rather than how you want to set them up. So you may have to move some things around. The other thing is if you decide you slice this and you don't want all the parts, well, I haven't quite figured out how to do in Cura. I mean, you can. All right, so here is the entire fuselage, and it has been sliced. Let's see how well it did. So in looking at the parts and the travels between the different parts, it does a pretty good job in some areas, but in others it's a little sloppy. And the time comes out to 1 day, 1 hour, 32 minutes. So to do the same thing in Prusa, let's just select all these. Preview. Then we're going to hit the Arrange button, and it separates out all the parts. Oh, I'm going to arrange it again. Moved it. Then I can see where they all are. And we are going to slice it. See how long it takes for Prusa to do it. All right, so Prusa finished slicing this, and it looks like it came out to 23 hours and 46 minutes. So it's an hour and 3/4 difference in print times between the two. So another thing that is really exciting to me about Prusa Slicer is the ability to do this. So these are all the parts that I have for a fuselage for an airplane. Well, I don't want to print all of them. I just want to print tail parts. So I'm going to turn off everything except for the tail parts. By turning them off and hitting the Arrange button, only the parts that are still turned on are on the print bed. And then the other parts are off the print bed. And when you slice, I wouldn't say they disappear, but they are not calculated in with the slicing. So you can go through and you could do just a couple of parts, you can do half the parts, and you can figure out a slicing arrangement that fits the timing of how you want to print your parts. This can be very handy if you want to do an overnight print and you want it to finish at a certain time the next day. Or then you can go back and you can turn on, turn off the other parts. And set them up to print. And they're all still loaded into the same project. And you can save the project as a .3mf file, and you can come back and open it without having to reload all the parts, but still be able to change the material. You can change which parts you want to print. You can change which printer you want to print them on. Just makes the file manipulation through the slicer a little bit easier to work with. There is also features internal to each part. If you right-click on the parts in this menu, this part tree, and you can duplicate by adding an instance, and you can arrange. So now you have two of them. You could set it as a separate object. So now there's two exact duplicates, and then you can change and manipulate. You can mirror. You can do all kinds of part things. So there's a bunch of things that you can do from this part tree that's quite helpful, that you may or may not need to use for. Maybe I want to manipulate how these are printed, so they print 45 instead of straight. And I can set them on my print bed. I'm going to turn off servo cover. There we go. I got all the wing panels in one group, and all the fuselage parts are off. Then I can slice and set these up to all print at the same time, or pick individual parts and print them as I desire. It's great. It's a way to manage an entire project all in one file that can all be saved, and I can reload it and start where I left off last time. Alright, so all of these parts have a little triangle next to them, and they say they have a facet error. And some of them have a couple more errors than others. These errors should not affect how the part slices or how it prints. Should slice and print just fine. This will be corrected in the future, but for right now it's just an annoyance rather than a problem. Do not pick the fix through net fab selection, because if you fix the part, all it does, let's pick one of the bigger ones. So this part has 64 facets that are reversed. So I am going to we're going to go through and see what happens when we do fix through netfab. Okay. Now we're going to slice it. As you can see, the front section of the wing has now been filled in and is now solid. Same thing with the rear section of the wing is now solid. So do not use the option to fix with netfab, because it does not fix the part correctly. It's better to just leave the error. And the other thing I found is I don't think, let's see if we can reload the part. Let's reslice it. Yeah, so you can reload the part and it will fix it. Or you can delete it and pull it back in. And for some reason now, it is showing that the facets are reversed as an error, but it's not giving the triangle. Anyways, you can fix it if you want to, but I'd highly suggest not doing it and just live with the annoyance of the triangle. That concludes the tour of the Prusa Slicer for a Cura user. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and we will have more videos coming soon.